What's going on, guys? Today I wanted to bring you another one of my 2014 WCQ hat format deck profiles. The deck I wanted to show off today is called Rank 8 Plants. There might be other names for it, but that's just what I personally like to call it. It's very similar to a Mythic plant deck, except it isn't reliant on the dragon side of the deck. It's mostly focused around plants and putting up very big bodies and then pushing for damage or making some really cool rank 8 plays. It'll make more sense once we actually get into the deck profile, but this is a deck I've been having a ton of fun with. It's really cool, just some of the cards you can play, and I'm excited to show it off. So let's get straight into this deck profile. So starting off, we obviously play our 2 copies of Lonefire Blossom. Being able to tribute a plant and summon any other plant from deck is extremely strong, and obviously, Lonefire plus Soul Charge can do a crazy amount of things in any sort of plant deck or deck that runs a plant engine, so very, very good card. After that, we have some of the level 8 plants. The big ones, we play 2 copies of Talea, Princess of Cherry Blossoms. This one gains 100 attack for each plant monster you control, and then other plant monsters on the field cannot be destroyed by card effects. So very, very good card. It also has 2800 attack, which is pretty large. After that, we have 2 copies of Cherubime. I can never pronounce that card right, but this one's really good. It has 2800 defense, so it is very beefy defense-wise. And it's an earth, so keep that in mind. And then your opponent can't target face-up plant monsters you control for attacks, except this one. So if you have 2 of these, it kind of becomes a pseudo dupe lock where they can't attack anything. And then if this card in your possession is sent to your graveyard by an opponent's card by battle or card effect, you're able to special summon a plant monster from deck except its own name. So that can summon your Talea, it can summon your Lonefire, it can summon a handful of other things. For example, I'm also playing 1 copy of Titanial. This one's really good. The reason I'm only playing 1 of this versus I've considered playing more is the fact that it's wind, and so this deck is a little more focused around the earth and water attributes. It'll make more sense in a minute here, but in general, this card is still really good, and there has been times I've been wanting to play a second copy, just currently I'm not. And what this one does is when a card or effect is activated that targets a card or cards on the field, you can quick effect tribute a face-up plant monster and negate the activation and destroy it. It also has 2800 attack, which is nice. The cool thing is this deck does have a lot of ways to revive things from graveyard, so even if you do use this, you have ways to bring it back out and continue getting its effect off, which is nice. That's it for the big plants. After that, we do play a small Mythic engine and other level 8 engine in general. I'm playing 2 copies of Mythic Water Dragon. Being able to special summon itself out if you control an earth monster once per turn is really nice. That means that say you open Lonefire and then you contribute it and go into the Cherubime and then special summon the Water Dragon and make a rank 8, or there's other 8 earths in the deck that you can use that with. I'm also choosing to play 1 copy of Mythic Tree Dragon. This isn't the craziest card in this deck. You could technically cut this, but I'll tell you in advance I am playing a Redox, and so I wanted to have a searchable target if my Redox gets banished, and it is really nice being able to target a water dragon type monster you control and make its level the same. So if you target the water dragon, you can make a rank 8 with that as well. Another cool card that I pair with the water dragons is 2 copies of Beast King Barbaros. This card's able to be normal summoned, but its attack becomes 1900. And then it has a tribute effect, but that never comes up. The main thing is being able to just normal summon a level 8 earth, and then you have the option, if you have a water dragon, to overlay and make a rank 8, which is really good. Also, it has 3000 attack when it's summoned back with certain cards. For example, if you soul charge it back, it will have the 3000 attack. And obviously a lot of the monsters are very large, and I'll tell you in advance, we do play skill drain too. So even having skill drain and normal summoning this, it'll be a 3000 beater, which is also very relevant. And in this deck, I'm only playing 2 Dragon Rulers. I'm playing the Redox and Title. These are just the best ones because the attributes line up really well as their secondary effects. You're not really summoning these as much as you're using them for their discard effects. So for example, if you discard Redox and an Earth, you can reborn a monster in graveyard, and Title has the effect you can discard it and a water to dump a monster to graveyard, which is very, very strong, especially in a deck like this that, again, has ways to summon things back. And with the Tree Dragon, you can also target the Title and be able to make rank 7s, which is cool. And just in general, you do have a lot of Earths. For example, like I said, the Barbaros can be used for the Redox, the Tree Dragon for the Redox, you have Water Dragons for Titles, you have the Cherubime for the Redox, you have the Teleas for the Titles, and just in general, like I said, you're not really focused around the summoning part of this, and that's why we're only playing the 2 Rulers, because those are the best attributes in this deck. After that, I play 2 copies of Curry Bandit. Originally, I was trying 3, but in my opinion, usually if you open one of the other normal summons, for example, like Lone Fire, you'd rather go into Lone Fire, especially if you already have Soul Charge or other cards to keep comboing through. So this card is like good, but only if you don't open the best. What's nice about this is during the end phase of the turn it's normal summon, you tribute it and excavate the top 5 cards of your deck and add one of the spell or traps to hand and send the rest to the graveyard. So this is a very good way to have kind of follow-up for your next turn, especially if you see something like a Soul Charge or some of the other power spell cards that we do play in this deck. You could play 3 of this if you wanted. I personally just like 2. Another one of the normal summons that I say that I prefer over Curry Bandit is Card Trooper. Being able to mill up to 3, increase the attack, and get a draw when it's destroyed, as well as being an Earth, is just really good, especially for some of the extra deck cards that require Earths. I'll talk more a little bit with that, but again, if I see like Soul Charge plus Card Trooper and Curry Bandit, most of the time I'd rather go for the Card Trooper just to establish some sort of board presence. But that is it for the monsters. Moving on to the spells, this deck wants to go fast, it wants to set up its graveyard, it wants to get into its monster lineup really fast, so we play 3 copies of Upstart Goblin, 3 copies of Trade-In, just because being able to discard some of those 8s so that they're not bricks, and again, you are trying to find your Soul Charge and Recursion spells is really nice. 3 copies of Soul Charge, obviously one of the best cards in the deck, minus maybe like Lone Fire. There's a combo where if you have Lone Fire plus Soul Charge, you end up drawing like 3 additional cards on its own and having the chance to inflict up to 2,400 damage. It'll make sense once we get into the extra deck. Next, 2 Miracle Fertilizer. I've seen some builds of like kind of a similar type deck play 3 of this. Personally, I don't like 3 copies of this because compared to Soul Charge and other things, this usually isn't going to be live turn 1, so it's only good later game. And the reason I say that is because you can't normal summon the turn you activate this card or set. And just in general, what it does is once per turn, you target a plant monster in your graveyard, special summon that target, and then, yeah, you can't normal or set during the turn you activate it. And then if a monster that was special summoned by this effect leaves the field, destroy this card. So this can technically get multiple uses, but again, the main thing is if you have to start with Lone Fire or Curry Bandit or Card Trooper, this card just becomes dead instantly. Unless, of course, you see a card, say, like your 1 copy of Foolish Burial, that you can just dump the stuff and then start going in. But usually you do need at least a normal summon for turn 1, so this card just becomes better after turn 1, maybe even like on your turn 3 or something. So that's why I think only 2 of that is necessary. And yeah, the 1 Foolish, and that is all for the spells. For the traps, we play 3 copies of Call the Haunted. Like I said, your bodies are really big in this deck, so being able to just summon 1 back and push for a lot of damage, especially under cards like I mentioned, like Skill Drain, or just getting an extra body so then you can make other plays if you have to bring back your Lone Fire or something. Just a good card. Next, 3 copies of Phoenix Wing Windblast. This is a way to out problematic cards. For example, if your opponent flips something like a Vanity's Emptiness or something, this is just a great card to out things like that, or just, interrupt your opponent and make so they're dead drawing whatever card you put back. Next, we play 3 copies of Skill Drain. Lone Fire can activate under this because it'll resolve in Graveyard, and it tributes for cost. So, really good card. Also, again, making your Barbarosses 3,000 again, and just in general, you play very big bodies. And the last card is 1 Torrential Tribute, just to clear boards and then make big pushes. What I'll say about this is, obviously, we're not playing the most back row removal or hand traps. I think you should side hand traps in this deck, for example, like Max C's and things. And then I also consider dropping 1 Skill Drain to play something like a Trap Stun, or finding room for multiple Trap Stuns, or even Malevolent Catastrophe, just as kind of a easier blowout card, but currently not playing it. Test around with it. I've tried it a little bit, and I'm still kind of working on what changes I want to make with this deck, but in general, this has been really good for me. The extra deck has a lot of space, so some of the choices can definitely be moved around. For the 8s, I'm playing 1 Hieratic Sun Dragon, being able to tribute monsters in your hand or field, and then non-targeting, destroy an equal number of cards on the field. 1 Coach King Giant Trainer. This is the card that I said with Soul Charge works really well. What it does is it needs 3 level 8s to make, and up to thrice per turn, you detach a material, draw a card, reveal it. If it's a monster, your opponent takes 800 damage, and then you can't conduct your battle phase the turn you activate that. So being able to do that turn 1, it does work. I checked in the judges lounge and stuff, and you can Soul Charge and do this in the same turn, which is really nice. After that, 2 copies of Divine Dragon Knight Felgrand. This card needs no explanation. Let me know in the comment section, do you guys prefer the Ghost or the Ulti? Honestly, I really like both, but in general, very good card, and 2 is definitely necessary. After that, 1 copy of Ulse. This card is so good in this deck, especially with some of your big plants, if you have them on field, plus this, especially like Cherubime. They won't be able to attack this, and then it has the effect that you can detach a material, declare the top card of your deck. If it's the declared card, add it to your hand, otherwise send it to the graveyard. And when a card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, I believe it says from the deck to the graveyard by a card effect, you're able to detach a material and then stack or put on the bottom 1 card on the field. So really, really good card. You can get this effect off with multiple different cards that you saw in the main deck. So really cool. And the last 8 is 1 Giant Grinder to pop monsters during the main phase 1. For the 7s, like I said, there's only a couple ways to even summon 7s, but you have so much space in this deck. So I play 1 Aurea, being able to get rid of plants from your field or hand to look at the top cards of your deck, and then put them back in any order, and then detach a material, target up, or declare up to 3, excavate the top cards, send any plants to graveyard, and then bounce that many cards on the field to hand. This also works really cool if you can make that plus the copy of Ulse to get multiple cards spun. Really cool card. It works really well to get your plants in graveyard for your Soul Charge plays or your Call the Haunted or anything else. 1 Draco Sack and 1 Big Eye. Again, the 7s don't really come up, but they're there as utility. For the 3s, because we do play a lot of level 3s, Acid Golem, because it's good for skill drain and beating over things like Ophion that can hurt this deck. Soul of Silver Mountain has a lot of defense, ices back row, and is also really good because if it destroys a monster by battle while it has Xyz material, you can special summon back out one of your earth monsters in grave, and that doesn't have a specification on the level, so that's really cool. You can summon some of your really big earths. Alucard to pop set cards, Leviair in case, you banish for your dragon rulers and have a lower level, or just in general to bring things back. 1 Mechquip Engineer because, protecting your cards is good. And lastly, 1 Melee of the Trees. This card requires Earths to summon, and it can either Foolish a plant monster or revive a plant monster in grave. So really, really strong card. One other key thing is I'm not playing Dandelion or Spore. You definitely could. I think if I were to make the room for it, I'd probably play Dandelion just because if it's milled, it'll get some tokens, and then, there's plays with that. But the deck right now feels really good, and I would like to know what you guys think in the comment section, so definitely let me know in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up on it, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, get notified anytime I put a new video out, share this video with your friends, and if you guys are looking for a specific type of video or want me to make a certain deck profile, definitely let me know in the comments. And anyways, guys, I will see you in the next video.